Welcome to Communication, Connection, Community, the Podcaster's Podcast. This podcast takes a deep dive into modern-day communication strategies in the podcasting space. We chat with interesting people who make the podcasting and speaking spaces exciting and vibrant. We also dive into the podcasting community with news, updates, latest trends and topics from this ever-evolving space. So strap in. It's going to be one amazing ride. Let's dive into today's episode. And my guest today is no stranger to the world of podcasting. Joe Casabona is a podcast and automation coach who helps busy solopreneurs take back their time. Who doesn't want more time? If you had 25 hours in a day, would you take it? Of course you would. Some even say he perfectly blends content creation and technology like it's the best cup of coffee you've ever had. There's imagery for you. By the way, he says that, not me. Joe's strategies come from his many years of experience, over 10 years creating podcasts, more than 15 years teaching, and over 20 years as a web developer. When he's not producing and coaching podcasters, you can find Joe spending time with his family, enjoying baseball, or talking too much about Star Wars. Oh my goodness, it's another one of those kids on the block here. And I'm a Trekkie, but that's okay. We'll get along, I'm sure. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Carl, for having me. This is, I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, favorite Star Wars character. Let's start there. Get it. Let's just get the dirty laundry out of the way.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is boring. But you know, if I have to pick like extended universe, I'm going to go Ahsoka Tano. I just think like her story arc is great.
Okay. All right. Okay. I actually grew up watching Star Wars, the original 3, which was actually the last 6.
The middle 3, yeah.
You know
the original Tridge.
So New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I would say Yoda would be my favorite character, probably because he just spoke the way that I sometimes speak after way too many cups of coffee. So there you go.
Yeah. Hey, he was my senior quote. So
philosophy too. Like, I mean, master of philosophy. Who couldn't, love Yoda? Right?
Yeah.
And then later on, Yoda became CGI, which just made him do some cool things that he could never do when he was just a puppet, right? So
right. Yes. Or the puppeteer, which I think Frank Oz was the puppeteer and the voice. Would have been very impressive for him to do.
It would have been. And I don't even know if Frank Oz is still around. I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't think he is. No.
God rest his soul. Such a great voice of many, many characters. Anyhow, but you're also a podcaster. So we have kindred spirits there, being both sci-fi fanatics, I guess you could say. Me more Trekkie than you in the Star Wars universe, but still in the universe somewhere, right? With spaceships that go faster than my car. So
absolutely. I want to make a quick stat correction. He is alive. He's 80 years old. And I just know that I want to correct this because when I listen to something and it's factually incorrect, I shout at the podcast like they can hear me through time and space. So for anybody who is shouting through time and space, I heard you and I looked it up and he's still alive.
Well, don't rest his soul yet, God. Frank Oz, keep at it. You're looking great and still doing fine. And but podcasting, you've been at this for quite a while. How did you find yourself in this crazy space, podcasting? What led you here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the origin was I was out. My friends and I had just like a guy's like camping weekend. And we were talking about things, and I have my master's in software engineering. I know a lot about computers and technology, and my friends seemed to know a lot about a lot. I'm like, how do you guys, this was like 2009 maybe. I'm like, how do you guys know all this stuff? And they're like, we listen to podcasts. And so that's when I started listening. And then like most people, maybe not most, but many people who listen to podcasts, they think eventually I should do this. So in 2012, my friends and I started a podcast. Bunch of white guys talking about things we don't know anything about. That was the format for the early 2010s. And then I decided to really give it the old college try in 2016. I had just got a remote job. I was moving away from friends and family. And I thought that podcasting would be a good way for me to stay connected and get kind of the extrovert side of me out while I was working kind of remotely away from friends and family.
And here you are today,
Here I am today.
8 years later. And it's funny, 2009 being the first time you heard about it. I think it was 2012 for me. And I remember the moment when I was introduced to it. I was doing speaker training, and one of my colleagues said, "Oh, you're doing speaker training. Oh, that's pretty cool. You're helping people on the stages and get better at public speaking." And he said, "You should do a podcast." And I remember saying at that time, and tell me if this was you, "What's a podcast?" And even after they explained it, I'm like, okay, I don't know why you're talking about me getting on this radio thing. I'm already on the radio doing this part-time speaker training thing. I don't want to do my own, like, run my own radio station thing. I had no concept at all until several years later, and I realized, oh, that's what it is. Okay. And now, like you, I help people on the back end do things in the podcasting space, so it's easier for them to, well, as you've indicated, like, save a lot of time. Otherwise, people would be pulling their hair out. They'd look like me. And for the record, if you're hearing my voice, not looking at my face, there's not a lot on top of my head. So, but definitely, it was a learning curve for me as well when I finally did get into that space. So, you and I, though, even though we work on the back end, you do something completely different. You're more in the automation space. So explain a little bit what that is, and we'll get into the how in a minute, but not what it is. Well, okay, let's talk about what it is and why it's so important.
Yeah. So I think maybe the most succinct way I usually put it is automation is making computers do stuff for you so you don't have to do it. Right. So this could be sending an email or adding some information to Notion or Airtable or whatever tool that you happen to use. If you are doing automatic bill pay for your mortgage or your rent or your electric bill or whatever, you're doing automation, right? It's just like a thing that you can take out of your brain and drop in a computer so you never have to think about it. And the reason it's so important is because for anybody who's doing a podcast who doesn't have a large team of people, they know it's a lot of work, right? Just like you, Carl, it's a lot of work and you have a bunch of people with you, but you are, you're not like Joe Rogan or Conan, right? Where you just get to talk basically, right? I don't want to undercut, like, cause they're probably still doing some research, but for people who are doing it on their own, they're doing the research and the talking and probably the editing and the publishing and the promoting. And it's a lot of stuff to think about.
And that stuff that you're talking about takes time. I have a coach that calls it, or refers to it as, those $10 tasks, the tasks that you don't want to do, but seemingly you end up doing because, well, it just seems like it'll be easier if I just do them all myself to begin with, but not even realizing that there's this thing or various tools we can use that will help us. And it's funny how you mentioned the bill payment side of things, because it's not that many years ago, if you needed to pay a bill, you had to pull out a piece of paper that was a little bit smaller than an envelope.
Mm-hmm.
It was called a check.
Yeah.
And you had to not just sign it, you had to write in the date, you had to write in the amount, who it was going to. You had to write in who it was going to.
Yep.
Then you had to sign it. Then you had to put it in an envelope.
Little memo, right? So you know what it's for.
Right? Write on the envelope.
Yeah.
Take it to a postal station so they can put a stamp on it, and then your bill is paid. Now, as you say, it's being automated. You set it up to have it automatically come out of your bank account. You don't even think about it. I don't know about you, Joe. I don't remember when the last time was I actually wrote a physical check. I've cashed a physical check in the last year, I know, because every now and again I'll get a check from a client. It's rare, but even every now and again something will come by check. But the actual process of bill payments, a lot of that now, you're right, it's automated. So how is it working then for a podcast? How is it you're able to save people hours in this space?
Yeah, well, like you said, right? I think you broke it down really well with writing a check. People look at that task and they go, oh, okay, well, Carl just made it sound a lot like it takes a lot longer than it actually does. I write out the check, I put it in an envelope, I get the stamp, I mail it. But there's a lot of things, micro tasks that happen there. Make sure you're spelling the person's name right. Make sure you get the amount correct. Find your stamps, find your checkbook. I've been incorporated as a business for like 10 years. I just ordered new checks like 2 months ago. I sent the last check out, and I did that because I wanted to have a paper trail for this particular transaction, right? And so, yeah, there's a lot of little things in there. But what you're also not considering, right? I'll give you an example. I say a great way to figure out what to automate is if you are copying information from one app to another, probably a good candidate for automation. I said that in a talk recently, and someone said, copying and pasting is easy. I'd rather do that than pay for a subscription to some other piece of software. Okay, fine. Let's say that is the case. Someone fills out your scheduling form, and then you copy and paste that information into, let's say, Trello, let's say Google Sheets, whatever you prefer. So you have to stop what you're doing, open that app, copy it, paste it into whatever other app. Let's say Notion, because Notion copy and paste is like a nightmare. So you post it into Notion, make sure everything's right. Okay, fine. That maybe took you 5 minutes, except you had to stop what you were doing. You had momentum for another task. Now, at the other end of it, you have to build up momentum to start your new task. So this 5-minute task took 20 minutes of mental energy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's if you remember to do it. That's the other thing. If you don't remember to do it, then it's not going to get done. A computer will do it. It'll always remember to do it. And it won't take your mental energy away from more important tasks.
And the thing that's key there too is it's taking you away from another mental task that there's I can't remember the exact stat or the number, but for every interruption it takes, is it another 15 or 20 minutes?
It's 15 minutes.
To get back into what it is you were doing. So add a little bit more time. So for every interruption or every whatever it is that you're thinking about, and those interruptions, even if you're on task and you're pulled away, it doesn't matter. It's still the same. You have to be a very disciplined person to not lose that 15 minutes of focus, energy.
Right.
Mental clarity, right? On whatever it is you were doing.
Yeah.
Is this a tool that we're only going to use for example, that we're only going to use for social posts, or are there automation sequences that we can be using for other aspects of our business as well, from the podcast perspective?
Tons of other aspects. Like I have, I actually did as we record this, I did a live stream today where I kind of did a little show and tell in my Make account, make.com, formerly Integromat. It's a Zapier competitor. Those are the two big, like, connect one app to another, right? Mm-hmm. So looking at the list now, I'll just run through a couple of these automations, right? One is when someone purchases my membership, create a private podcast feed in Transistor, right? So someone, this is a task that has to happen when they make the purchase. That can't wait until I'm back at my desk, right? If they purchase on a Friday at 7 p.m. and they don't get their podcast feed until 9 a.m. on Monday, like that's not a good experience, right? So that is one automation. Create a Notion entry from a Google Doc, right? So I use Google Docs for my solo episodes and for, I'll talk about my interviews in a minute, but like when I add a new document into this specific folder in Google Drive, I have Make watching that folder, copying the content, and putting it into Notion so that I have a fully searchable database of all of my content. And then because the rules of threes are really important here, I'll pick a third one, which is send an email to someone who applied to be on my podcast, right? So anybody can apply to be on my podcast. Usually when I get like those very bad pitches from people who are like, hey, name, I love your full name of show. Latest episode was my favorite. I love how AI summary. I usually just have like a canned email that says, thanks for your interest. Please fill out the form here. That goes into a Notion database. And then when I change the status of that application from accepted to accepted or rejected, based on that, they get an email and Make sends that email out. So instead of, again, this is easy, right? Especially if it's the same exact text. I can have a text expander snippet or copy and paste it, but I still have to open my email client, copy the email address in, write the email, check the subject line, send it. Now I'm just moving a Notion record from one column to another, and the email gets sent out.
Wow. Okay. So this is how you're able to save people a lot of time. What's the pushback you get though? I mean, you talked about the copy and pasting. Would you say some of the pushback is even a generational thing where there's Gen Xers or maybe even boomers who are trying to do, they've been accustomed to doing a lot of things manually, that they just assume it's quicker than trying to figure out the tech end of things?
Yeah, so usually, and this is where like the blending I'm, again, master's in software engineering. I have spent my entire adult life thinking like a computer. So like automation, I recognize comes easy to me. So the biggest pushback I get is, do I really need to pay $20 a month for Zapier or $10 a month for Make? And to that, I usually say like, let's just say this saves you 1 hour. Is 1 hour of your time worth $20 to you? I suspect it's yes. But the bigger pushback I get is around, this is hard, I don't get it, right? And that's really why I moved into the niche I'm in, right? I was doing a webinar, and my friend Jeremy Enns introduced me as, Joe has 3 kids and also runs 3 podcasts. And there was a parent in the audience who had 1 of each of those things. And she was like, how can you do 3 of each? I only have 1 of each and I'm struggling. And that was a very crystallizing moment for me. Where I'm like, yes, this is where I can best serve people. So that's a lot of what I do is I help people. I'll either build the automations for them or we'll walk through their process and I'll show you. Because the other thing is like, I don't know what to automate, right? That's another big thing. You don't know what's possible until you know what's possible, sort of thing.
What can you automate? I mean, we talked about a couple things. Are there steps that are missing or things that you can automate that a lot of people aren't aware of?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think what I usually tell people to do is go to Zapier.com or make.com. There you'll be able to explore all of the apps they integrate with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see apps that you use in that list, then you can automate something, right? And the way that I tell people to think about it is if you have really clear inputs and a really clear output or an outcome, let's say, then you could probably automate that. So if I pick a different example, here's a good one. Update. So I have a full podcast planner in Notion with different statuses. It builds a Kanban board so I can see, all right, I have these episodes scheduled. These are out for edit. These are ready to be scheduled. I have an automation that watches Dropbox, and I make sure to name all of my files by episode number. So let's take 428. If a file with 428 is put into the needs editing folder in Dropbox, then Make will automatically update episode number 428 in Notion to mark for out for edit and send an email to my editor. Right? This sounds complicated. I have been building automations basically since I started podcasting. So like Very Rome wasn't built in a day situation. And I did have to work with my editor to be like, hey, are you cool with this? Is this like, does this work for your workflow? But the same thing comes on the back end, right? He knows to upload we do 2 versions, right? One that is ad supported and one for members only. When he uploads them back with the episode number, the status changes to ready for scheduling. The members only episode gets moved into the members folder, and my VA gets an email. Hey, these are ready for scheduling. And because of that, once I ship an episode out for editing, I don't even see it again until it hits my podcast feed in Overcast. And I trust my editor, right? That's another big part of it.
Well, yeah. Trusting your editor is one step unto itself, right? That they're going to, hit the timelines and such. So it sounds like you're the solopreneur's best friend, but it also sounds like you're potentially the agency's best friend as well, because there's so many steps, especially when you're talking an agency like mine that's working with multiple clients, that having those, I mean, this is beyond SOPs. This is systems set up that allow you to be efficient regardless of what's happening. You really can't miss the mark because the automations are always going to hit the mark. It's not, there's no human error that's going to, oh, I forgot to send that email to so and so, or God, I forgot to upload that or transfer that from Dropbox to Google Drive or whatever it is. There's always the consistency. And it sounds like you've got it down to a science.
Yeah, I mean, it's this lights me up. Like, I'd be sitting at events in college, like a acoustic guitar singer or whatever, and like a solution would come to me, and I would like you've seen this in like techie movies like The Social Network, where like the guy literally writes the solution on a napkin. I have done that before. Like, this stuff really lights me. I mean, it's like it's my phone now or whatever, but like, back in '06, I was like, oh my God, I gotta write this down. So like, yeah, this stuff really lights me up. I put a lot of thought into it. I do it a little bit on hard mode too, because like, coming from the web development space, I've experienced a lot of freelance web developers who would say things like, I hate GoDaddy. If someone comes to me and their website's on GoDaddy, I make them move to the host I like. And I'm like, that's not my philosophy. If you're happy with GoDaddy, stay. Like, if you hate GoDaddy that much, then they are not a good client for you. I mean, that's really what it is. And so if someone comes to me and they're like, I hate Notion, I prefer Airtable, I'm like, all right, well, let's build these things in Airtable for you then, because there's enough friction here. I don't want to create more friction by making them move to a tool that they are unfamiliar with.
Well, you also don't want to make them do more work, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
because there's the learning curve for the new software or tool that they're using, but then there's also other aspects to that, right? So you mentioned a couple here. You mentioned Airtable, you mentioned Zapier, you've mentioned Notion. Are they equal, or are there ones that avoid like the plague? Like, what's your philosophy on which one or ones that you should consider using?
I love this question because I also love looking at tools, right? Like, my
Right.
friend, I'm in a mastermind with my friend, and he's like, I'm like, oh, I was looking at this tool today. And he's like, of course you were. So my base answer is very like when you ask a teacher, how long does the paper need to be? And they say, as long as it needs to be. My base answer is whatever you are most comfortable with is the right tool for you. I will say Notion is very popular. There are a lot of templates and a lot of support for that. So I think that if you're starting somewhere and you're looking for a lot of kind of do it yourself help, you'll find a lot of do it yourself help on YouTube for Notion. Someplace Notion inexplicably falls down is built-in automations. So like, they rolled this out, but it is like, we can do a whole episode on this. I'm not even going to get into it. It's very bad. And so like, you might as well assume that Notion doesn't have automations. Airtable, however, their automations are incredible. Like, you can send emails when you update records in Airtable. So like, if you don't want to connect a lot of things, and to be honest, like, connecting a lot of things means that there are more links in the chain that could break. Airtable is going to be right for you. And like, there are Airtable experts out there who can really like soup up your Airtable for you. I'm very familiar with Airtable. I moved from Airtable to Notion because it worked better with me and my assistant. I miss some of those things though, like the automations. So those are the note taking, or like kind of like the planner sort of things, right? These are like database-esque tools. As far as automation goes, there's three big to medium players. Zapier is the biggest one. Everyone knows Zapier. It's the biggest, it's the most expensive. It's also probably the most user friendly. It does, it's got like deep roots and strong connections with other companies. And so they can build in tighter integrations. A step down from that is make.com. I love make.com. Make.com for me was like 90% cheaper than Zapier, right? And that works for me because I understand the kind of connections you need to make. And the learning curve was not as high for me as somebody who's just starting from scratch. Both Zapier has a free plan. I forget if Make does. And then right below that is Pabbly. I have no experience with Pabbly, but I've heard good things. But I would say, like, if you're starting today, Zapier is probably your best bet. And if you're building like 5 or fewer automations, the free plan is probably fine for you. At this point, for me, like, I have like Rube Goldberg machines built. And so like make.com is definitely better for me.
Of course, the best answer to this question is if what Joe has said is all gobbledygook, then you need to talk to Joe because maybe Joe needs to become, and Joe and his team need to become a member of your team to help you push this forward. Because that's what you do is you help set these up for people so they can free up 6, 8, 10, 12 hours of their life, which it's hard to get that back, right? You never get time back, but it's so much easier when you have those tools in place. I think there's definitely some value in having a follow-up conversation about, who knows what, because we're both brothers to the core on a number of different things. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to pass something along to our audience. I know you've got some resources that will help people get started. So what can you share with them?
So if you go over to podcastworkflows.com/Carl, you will get my free automation template database. So what I would say to you here is, like, even if you don't want to implement these yourself, you will see 40 automations that I use to run my business. And this could generate some ideas for you. So I think it's a really good resource. It'll be over at podcastworkflows.com/Carl.
And we'll make sure that that link is in the show notes, as well as how you can connect with Joe, his social handles, his everything related to Joe. So you can follow him and learn from him. And of course, if you think it's time to work with Joe, then that information will be there as well. Oh my goodness. Like I said, Joe, we could talk another, blue streak and still only scratch the scratch of the scratch, as it were. So Joe Casabona has been my guest today. Before I turn you loose to go save someone 12 hours worth of time just with some automation systems, I'll give you the final thought.
All right. So if you're wondering if this is really worth it for you, I'm going to share a very brief story with you. A couple of years ago, I was unable to mow my lawn for 3 to 4 weekends in a row, which meant that I needed to mow my lawn on a weekday. Weekdays include billable hours for me. And because my grass was so long and my lawnmower sucks, it took me 6 hours to mow my lawn, which means that mowing my lawn that one day cost me $1,200. After that, I decided to hire a lawnmower. So now I pay this guy $35 every week in the summer, and I never, ever have to think about it again. This is what automation can do for you. It's not about, I can just do it myself. You're a capable person. You can do a lot of things yourself. It's about freeing up your time to do the most crucial of your tasks so that you could spend the rest of your time with your family, with your friends, or playing the drums, watching Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, however else you want to spend your time.
It would probably be Star Wars for sure, especially if you happen to get invited over, right? So
yes.
That's a great place to leave it. Joe, it's been a fantastic conversation. Joe Casabona, thank you so much for being my guest today.
My pleasure, Carl. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to our producer and production lead, Dom Carrillo, our music guru, Nathan Simon, and the person who works the arms, all of our arms actually, my trusty assistant, Stephanie Gafour. If you like what you heard today, leave us a comment and a review, and be sure to share it with your friends. If you don't like what you heard, please share it with your enemies. Oh, and if you have a suggestion of someone who you think would make an amazing guest on the show, let us know about it. Drop us an email, askcarl@carlspeaks.ca. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. You'll find all those links in the show notes. And if you're ready to take the plunge and join the over 3 million people who have said yes to podcasting, let's have a conversation. We'll show you the simplest way to get into the podcasting space because, after all, we're podcast solutions made simple. We'll catch you next time.